bring on Sam McKewon now on the Hurrdat Hotline from Omaha World-Herald. What's up, Sam?
Hey guys,
Sam,
welcome to the month, the July, the quiet month, not quiet month, after the 4th, all the rest.
but we just get bored because it was a dead period, or what? Like, did we need something to talk about?
Yeah, I know, and it's yeah. I mean, hopefully it'll be a couple quiet weeks for the program now.
Sam, let me ask you something. I want to go back to the Cooper Butler thing in a second, because you're one of the few that I was actually talking to real time. I had pretty much shut it down, but I'll get back to that in a second. But my stance on the Coach Knighton thing is, I didn't want to hand slap or poke fun or laugh at Nebraska fans for being concerned, because I'm trying to make the case that I think with the availability and how much we kind of care and know about these guys and the support staff and just the accessibility, that you kind of get that with being at Nebraska, right? As my buddy DJ Rezak likes to say, you don't get this life without him in it. So this kind of goes with the territory, right? I didn't look at it like, oh, here we go again. I was like, I get it, right? I mean, a premier coach, for whatever the reason, has a different bio handle. I could see where that would I could see where that would be concerning on the heels of Coach Cooper.
Yeah, I mean,
how'd it land with you? Did you eye roll? Were you like, oh, that's interesting?
I eye rolled it. Yeah,
you're smarter than me.
I think that's, yeah. Well, I'm not, like, it's just that, I think, I don't know how to put this. Like, obviously the timing of Cooper's resignation and 12 hours later a name coming out indicates that was not, Matt Rhule wasn't calling people at 7 o'clock on Friday night asking if they want to coach Nebraska.
Right.
So, it would have been kind of odd for a coach right on the heels of that to be doing some, a different coach to be leaving for the same thing. But, I don't know. Like, it's one of those things where I feel like I'm actually on Twitter a relative bit more than some, and probably more than I should be sometimes. And I don't necessarily think a lot of that. I think, people change their Twitter bios sometimes or their photos. I don't change mine much, but people do that sometimes. And players do that. Players do that because they're, impulsive or they're upset. I didn't unite in that way, but, Nebraska fans have become accustomed to drama. If you want to get right down to it.
Yeah.
Drama has been around this program for really a long time, at least since Bo got there, and frankly before that. And this is a program that can at times struggle to get out of its own way. And Rhule has tried very hard to create a program that's steadier than that, and is. But the fan base is what it is. There's people that are just sitting on social media all day long, looking for stuff, watching stuff, speculating about stuff, all kinds of different things. And, they may know, some of these folks may know more than some of the people in Nebraska know, because they just spend all day long on it. And that's the nature of social media. That's why you have to be judicious and thoughtful about it. And, even with the Butler thing, and I think he's going to be the coach, we weren't going to say that they've hired him, because they've hired him when they announced the hire. We went through this once before where they thought they were going to hire that quarterback coach, and then they didn't hire him. And, so you got to be thoughtful.
Are you talking about Dana Holgorsen?
Jake Peets.
Or Peets?
Peets, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think the Holgorsen thing was always a tire kicking, mostly. But no, I mean, Peets, that was basically announced. He's going to join Nebraska as a quarterback coach, and they didn't do it. And you got to be smart with. Hey, and ESPN reported it. That's what we're saying. And Nebraska will announce it when they announce it. If that's who it is, we'll go from there. But there's all kinds of permutations today. And You have to be thoughtful about them. I'm not saying it's not possible that Nebraska, could in theory lose 2 coaches in an offseason. I don't think that's going to happen this offseason, but that can happen, and you just have to roll with it. As a fan base, turnover in college sports is going to be super common. It's already common with players. It's going to be super common with coaches too.
Sam, kind of going back to the Butler and Cooper thing, I want to talk about the football part of it first and foremost, because it's a position group where I think, maybe skepticism is too strong of a word, but there's some curiosity as to what that's going to look like in the defensive backfield. There's obviously the recruiting prowess and talent evaluation that Cooper brought to the table as well. Just from a football standpoint, how do you process the loss of Cooper and the assumed hiring of John Butler?
Well, I mean, I think Cooper was close to Rhule and had a lot to say about talent evaluation. I think he was a skilled recruiter, and so I think there were ways in which he'll be missed there, and obviously one player already pushed back his decision making timeline, and so there's a number of things at play, that obviously. I mean, Matt Rhule didn't have Evan Cooper on his staff for no reason. I mean, and didn't pay him when he paid him for no reason. It helped keep Cooper away from coordinator jobs because that's a pretty hefty salary. So obviously he was an important piece. Butler is a very very high level defensive backs coach.
Yeah,
and that goes without saying. So that you don't coach that long in the NFL and that many good players. And not have a reputation. So he has a very strong reputation. And Nebraska's individual players will benefit from his expertise and knowledge. Like it will be, well, let me tell you what Micah Hyde does. He can inform them about the habits, about the playing style and those things. It's pretty obvious he wants to be a defensive coordinator and wants to be the play caller. And more to the point, I think it's pretty obvious he was offended by, and he didn't say that in the athletic story, but I mean, I've been around it long enough to know that if your boss promotes a guy that hadn't been there as long and is 11 years younger than you to the coordinator role, he's saying something about you.
Mm-hmm.
And he's saying something that based on that athletic story, his position players did not agree with.
Yeah, I always like to see when players come out, because that usually tells me what I need to know, for the most part.
Yeah.
So
there's some drama within the Buffalo Bills organization. It's not that anybody gives a crap about this stuff, but over the course of 2 years, that franchise has not lived up to what everybody thought it was going to be when they lost to Patrick Mahomes 42-36. Everybody thought it was going to be Super Bowl or bust in Orchard Park, and they basically overturned the entire coaching staff. The next person to go is going to be the head coach. So he's trying to do everything he can do while Josh Allen's optimum window is open to get them to a Super Bowl, and he made a choice to promote a 40-year-old defensive coordinator over Butler. And I think that was when Butler was like, well, I got to go. And then the other guy, the defensive line coach, he left too and went and got a coordinator job himself. So I obviously there's things going on in Buffalo. His departure from the Bills was his. I mean, he initiated that. They probably would have loved to have kept him. So he's unemployed by choice, and he'd be an interesting hire for Nebraska for sure.
So you kind of alluded to it, and I think a lot of people have put 2 and 2 together. You obviously don't make a hire like this on a whim, right?
Right.
A little bit of it's kind of amazing how they pulled this off this time of the year with little to no one knowing, right? I mean, that one thing that I think that department has done is they seem to have kind of tightened it up quite a bit with the comings and certainly the goings.
Yeah, for sure. I think that had begun under Trev, and I think that's continued. And Rhule has, I think Rhule has made it's a quiet part of the season too, and so there's a lot of people that probably aren't quite as plugged in or tuned in. but just as an example, Damon, about 36 hours before Bill Moose was let go back in June of 21, and that was June 30th, July 1st, whatever, we started hearing this guy's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now he was a person of higher stature than Cooper,
Mm-hmm.
but that those leaks were starting to come out about 36 hours, 24 hours before he left, or was before he was talking to us about leaving or whatever you want to call what he did. He was fired, but so Nebraska's gotten tighter since then, and for sure, yeah, they did a nice job of keeping it under wraps until Friday night at 6 p.m., which is in the news world. Excuse me, thought I had to sneeze. In the news world, that's when you dump news, as they call it. It's a Friday news dump, and so they were able to keep that till Friday. And Pete Thamel's going to report a lot of stuff that comes out of Rhule world. So that was they handled it well, and it's too bad. Again, I like Devin Cooper, so enjoyed listening to him. I think he loves being a teacher, and hopefully he's able to find another role somewhere else.
Yeah, it's interesting because that, as far as I could gather, that's the only voice that defensive backs room has had. They had a lot of his temperament, right? He's obviously rubbed off on his guys. In listening to some of Butler's pressers and even reading the article in The Athletic, it appears like one of his strong. I kept seeing the word fiery or hearing the word passionate, so that's good. Like, I like that. But the other thing is, he's extremely bright. Like, his ability to communicate is at a high level.
Yeah, I think probably what has kept Butler from being a coordinator, if I had to guess, would just be the volatility. Like, he's got a position coach's heart, and the NFL embracing sort of a cool remove from the head coach and play caller perspective. They want somebody who's more analytical, kind of stands a half step back. They're not necessarily looking for the people that always wear it on their sleeves. You can just look at the head coaches in the NFL and see that, and they're fiery to some degree, but I think of the Browns head coach or the Vikings head coach. Those guys were coordinators more than being head coaches. So, I think he's going to be a really, really interesting hire. And I don't want to jump the queue too much and say, well, once Tony White leaves, this guy's going to move into that role. I have no idea. And honestly, that is a conversation for a different time. I think Tony White's got year 2 coming up, and he needs to find the best job for him. As a head coach when that comes along, and that may not be this offseason either. We just don't know. Tony White's the defensive coordinator of the team, and there's probably some things that Butler can learn from him. There's probably some things he can learn from Butler. Should be a good match, and he is the most experienced coach. Yeah, he's the most experienced coach on that side, for sure. Like, he'll come in there and he'll be able to talk about NFL defenses over the last decade, and that will be a helpful conversation for everybody in the room.
Sam, pro or con that we're 6.5 weeks out, right? Because sometimes you have to hunker down, and it can enhance learning. Some other times it's, we got too much time. We got time, so we can kind of incrementally do this thing. Do you like? You're obviously not going to pick this time of the season, but can you make a positive out of it?
You can do the very best you can to make the transition smooth, and to I think the biggest positive that can be made here is the guy that you had did a great job of setting a culture. I don't have to come in here and teach you how to work or how to think or how to act. What I can do is I can tell you what the pros do. And I can tell you that from a 10-year look back. So he can go to Tommy Hill and say, here's the corner I coached. He was a Pro Bowler. He was an All-Pro, actually. Here's what he did. His safeties have been really good. And so those two guys have been there for basically the entire time he was there. He can go to an Isaac Gifford or Marquise Buford and say, Micah Hyde and Jordan Poirier are not the off-the-charts freaks athletically. Although Poirier's pretty good. Here's what they do. Here's how they made it work for them at this level. And here's some point. Like he can improve. He can share some knowledge that even Cooper would not have necessarily had about just the last decade of football at the pro level, the receiver. Like he's able to say, I sat in practice for the last however many years it was, 3 years, and I watched Stephon Diggs work. And here's what he did, and here's what we did against him. And here's how teams tried to take him away. And here's how we tried to take away Justin Jefferson, even though that did not work 2 years ago. Justin Jefferson caught all kinds of balls over the Bills a couple of years ago. But here's what we tried to do to stop it. So like they can talk about those things and have honest conversations. Hey, when we play Ohio State, I've faced this guy. Here's what we can try to do. Those kind of things. I think it's positive in that way. It's going to be tough in other ways, I'm sure.
We're talking with Sam McKewon of the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, I was trying to remember, do you recall another position or coaching staff change at this point in the calendar? Like, it is pretty unusual.
Well, Bob Wager last year.
Yeah,
right
I guess
after.
We hadn't ever seen him coach, so I forgot about him. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Bob, and I think his was after Big Ten Media Days. Let me try to think here. Gosh, I couldn't speak with any intelligence to the Callahan era. Sorry.
That's okay.
I don't think there was a ton of off-season shifts there. No, not that I'm aware of, and I'm sure somebody will bring someone up very quickly. That we had the summer change with men's basketball back with Collier left and Doc took over. Doc did an incredible job that first year, but that's different, obviously. In men's basketball, Rashawn Burno, they called it the Burno effect at the time. He left right around this time. I remember because I had to cover it because Lee B was on vacation at the time. And I was about to go on vacation, and Rashawn Burno left for Arizona State. And, I think that might have been the first time I talked to Miles, or one of the first times. It was good. So Rashawn Burno did that to Nebraska, and they hired, what was his name? Bill Beckner?
Oh, yeah, that might have been it.
Yeah,
that might have been it.
He's the personal trainer of, the Portland Trailblazers star. Now he's in Milwaukee. I don't know. I'm a Blazers fan, but the name's blanking me at the moment. So he was a odd hire. This is a much better hire than that particular guy was. I think he went on to be an assistant at Boise State. Those are the two that I can recall. And then Wager, who resigned and then was replaced. And now, this rule has come down with the unlimited coaches. So I'm guessing that, the tight ends coach who stuck around will probably have some sort of title now. And he'll be the assistant to Satterfield, who can kind of focus on calling plays. I think Butler will have an assistant too, who I don't know. But if he's going to coach all four positions, that's a big undertaking, coaching all four. So I'm sure he'll have some help there with whichever position he wants to get help with.
Sam, when you're taking a look at kind of
Damian Lillard, that's who Beckner was the personal trainer of.
Lillard?
Damian Lillard. Yeah.
Oh, good call.
The guy that replaced Burno.
Oh shoot, we're down to a minute, so I won't get super philosophical. But when you're taking a look at the totality of the fit of Nebraska on the defensive side of the ball, do you like kind of at least at the surface, replacing passion for passion?
Yes, I do, very much. Yeah, I think that's good. I think you have to have some of that on your staff, and absolutely, yeah. I mean, yeah. The one thing that I think I told you this too, is like Matt Rhule can go get really good coaches. Like his network is very vast.
Yeah.
People want to work with him. He will be able to replace coaches, whether he wants to promote from within or he wants to go out and get a name. He'll be able to do that every single time. Now, he is a very specific kind of guy, too. So, like, just like, Joe Brady's a hell of a coach, that situation didn't necessarily always match.
Yeah.
I think Rhule, with this guy, went out and got somebody who's going to fit. It presuming he's the guy that fits who Rhule is, and kind of does things the way Rhule wants it done. And Matt Rhule will always be able to go out and get really good coaches. And that wasn't always true of every coach Nebraska had. I don't know if it was true of Scott. Like, I don't, it was hard to say. Like, when
that's
they went
fair.
out,
That's fair.
When they did a hiring of offensive coordinators, it was a audition. It wasn't an audition. But Scott was talking to people he didn't really know that well.
Mm-hmm.
And Trev was involved. And so, like, I just don't think that's ever going to be Matt's story. Let's say, for example, so-and-so and such goes on and gets a coordinator job. Whomever that is. I don't know. Rob Dvorak's probably not going to be there forever. He's a hell of a coach. From everything I've heard, Matt's not going to have to go over to Troy Dan and go, who do you know? What do you think? So Rhule will always have options, and that's part of the thing that you get when you hire Matt Rhule is you hire all these other things, including that people want to work with him, and as it turns out, sometimes when you hire coaches, you don't always know what you're hiring. And you're hiring the Cadillac package as it relates to the man can hire who he wants. And it appears that he went out and got a really, really good hire here. I mean, this is the best possible example of he can hire who he wants.
That's Sam McKewon from the Omaha World-Herald. Sam, we appreciate your time. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks, Sam.